Nora Winters pressed her fingertips against the rough canvas, watching tiny droplets of blue paint spread, like small oceans between the textured ridges. She sighed, stepping back from the mural that would soon grace the walls of Pinecrest Marine. Center, the coastal town of Everwick seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the waves, its misty mornings and rugged cliffs becoming her sanctuary after fleeing the city and its painful memories. Too emotional, her ex had said when leaving Too Invested. In everything, as if caring deeply was a fault to correct rather than a gift to treasure. A sharp knock interrupted her thoughts. The studio door swung open, revealing Jasmine, the center director, with a tall figure looming behind her. "Nora, this is Gabriel Thornfield." Jasmine gestured to the man whose presence seemed to darken the doorway. "The photographer I mentioned. He'll be documenting your mural process for our fundraising campaign." Gabriel Thornfield barely acknowledged her with the slightest nod, his eyes gray as the winter sea scanned her workspace, his expression betraying nothing beyond mild disinterest. His camera hung from his neck like an extension of himself, expensive and intimidating. "Nice to meet you," Nora offered, extending her hand, which he regarded for a moment before giving it the briefest shake. His touch was cool and fleeting. "I'll need full access." His voice low and graveled from disuse. "Morning light is best for this space." Nora blinked. "I usually start work around 10. I'll be here at 6, he replied flatly, after Jasmine left. Gabriel wandered silently around her studio, examining her sketches, canvases, and color studies without comment. His silent judgment made Nora's skin prickle with anxiety. "These are just preliminary ideas," she said, filling the uncomfortable silence. "The final piece will incorporate local marine life with folklore elements, something that connects the community to the Theus conservation message." Gabriel stopped at a small portrait she'd hidden behind larger canvases. It was a self-portrait painted during her darkest days after the breakup. Curvy figure wrapped in swirling blues and greens, vulnerability exposed. "This," he said, the first hint of interest coloring his voice. "This has truth." Nora rushed forward, taking the canvas from his hands. "That's personal," she said softly. "Not part of the project." Something flickered across his face, recognition perhaps, before the shutters came down again. 6 tomorrow, he said, turning to leave after he was gone. Nora stood motionless in the center of her studio. The space felt different somehow, as if his presence had altered the air itself, leaving traces of something sharp and broken behind that. Night. Nora called her friend Dominic, who ran the local bookstore. "He's impossible," she complained. "Cold, distant, practically wordless." "Gabriel Thornfield," Dominic whispered. "Do you know who he is, Nora? His war photography won 3 international awards before he disappeared from public. View His Faces of Conflict series made hardened journalists weep." "Why is he here photographing a small-town mural, then?" she asked. "Nobody knows what happened to him after." "Sudan," Dominic replied. "Some say he witnessed something that broke him. But whatever ghost haunts Gabriel Thornfield followed him to our shores." Nora gazed out her cottage window at the restless sea, wondering what memories plagued the photographer with the winter eyes. She recognized pain when she saw it, the same kind that had driven her to this remote coastal town, where her softness might finally be seen as strength rather than weakness. As rain began to patter against the glass, Nora made a decision. She would not shrink before Gabriel Thornfield. She had spent too long making herself smaller for others. Tomorrow, she would stand tall in her truth, paint dripping from her fingertips, ready to create beauty that even his cold lens could not deny. Dawn arrived with a palette of grays and silvers as Nora hurried toward the studio, clutching coffee in both hands. She pushed the door open with her hip to find Gabriel already there, camera aimed at her half-finished sketches. "You're late," he said. Without looking up, "It's 5:58. Nora countered, setting one coffee on the workbench beside him. "Peace offering." Gabriel glanced at the cup, then back to his viewfinder. "I don't need offerings. Everyone needs something," Nora murmured, unfolding her workspace. Her brush slipped into her hand like an old friend as she began mixing colors on her palette. For 3 hours they worked in silence, broken only by the click of his camera and the soft swish of her brush against canvas. She could feel his lens following her movements, capturing angles of her body she normally hid from the world. "Why do you do that?" he finally asked. Nora looked up, startled by his voice. "Do what?" "Turn away when I aim the camera at your face. Hide your hands in your sleeves when you're thinking." Heat rushed to her cheeks. Not everyone enjoys being observed. A humorless smile touched his lips. "Says the woman who chose to create art in public spaces." "My art isn't me," she countered. "It's exactly you." Gabriel approached, studying her mural design. Every brushstroke screams Nora Winters. She wasn't sure if he meant it as criticism or observation, but something about the way he said her name, full name, made her pulse quicken. Days bled into weeks. The mural expanded. Across the wall, Gabriel documenting its growth and occasionally offering surprising insights. His technical eye complemented her emotional approach, though he delivered suggestions with clinical detachment. One morning, Nora arrived to find Gabriel photographing the sunrise through the studio's eastern window. Light fractured through his camera lens, casting prism patterns across his scarred hands. "Beautiful," she whispered before she could stop herself. Gabriel lowered his camera, eyes meeting hers with unexpected intensity. "Beauty is subjective and fleeting. That's why we capture it," Nora replied. "In photographs, in paint. We don't capture beauty," he said, turning back to the window. "We preserve evidence that it once existed." The sadness in his voice called to something deep within her, a recognition of shared wounds differently inflicted. That afternoon rain trapped them in the studio. Thunder shook the windows as Nora worked feverishly on a difficult section of coral reef. Gabriel moved closer than usual, his camera forgotten as he watched her hands. "You're making a mistake," he said, pointing to her blending technique. "The perspective is off." "Show me," she challenged, handing him her brush. Gabriel hesitated before taking it. His fingers brushed hers, sending unexpected warmth up her arm. He stood behind her, guiding her hand to create the proper depth. "Like this," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Nora froze, aware of his chest, nearly touching her back, the scent of pine and salt water emanating from his skin. She turned slightly, their faces inches apart. Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability cracking through his armor, before he stepped away abruptly. "That's better," he said, voice returning to its professional tone. Later, as they packed up, Gabriel paused at the door. "Why whales?" he asked, nodding toward her central mural figure. "They sing to find each other across impossible distances," Nora answered. "Even when they can't see through the darkness of the deep, they call out. Their voices travel for miles, refusing to accept silence." Gabriel stood motionless, his hand tight on the doorframe. "Some creatures aren't meant to be found, Nora." As he disappeared into the rain, Nora wondered if he was speaking of the whales or himself. The exhibition opening loomed 2 weeks away, Nora's mural nearing completion. Gabriel's documentation growing more intricate. His camera followed her with increasing focus, capturing moments she never expected, moments of concentration when her guard dropped, revealing the passion she poured into every brushstroke. "You've never shown me your photographs," she said one evening as sunset painted the studio gold. Gabriel continued cleaning his lens. "They're not ready." "Will they ever be ready?" His movements stilled. "Some things aren't meant for public consumption." "I'm not the public," Nora challenged. The look he gave her made her breath catch, understanding dawning between them. That somehow in these weeks of silent companionship they'd become something else, something unnamed but undeniable. That night a storm battered the coast. Windows rattled as Nora worked late, finalizing details. When the lights flickered and died, she cursed, fumbling for her phone's flashlight. The studio door burst open Gabriel, appearing like an apparition, water streaming from his coat. "Power's out across town," he announced. "Jasmine sent me to help secure the artwork." Together they covered canvases and sealed windows, their hands meeting in darkness. Neither pulling away, Gabriel's fingers lingered against hers longer than necessary. "Why did you come to Everwick?" she asked, as thunder cracked overhead. Gabriel remained silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "To disappear," he finally said. "From what?" "From who I became." Nora moved closer, feeling his warmth in the chilled room. "And who was that?" "A witness." His voice dropped barely audible above the rain. "I spent 15 years documenting humanity's worst moments, believing my camera could make a difference, that showing the world would change it." He laughed bitterly. "All I did was turn suffering into art for people to glance at between coffee and breakfast." "That's not true," Nora protested. "Your work mattered. I've seen it." Gabriel's head snapped up. "What did you say?" "I looked you up," she admitted. "Your Sudan series, the refugee camp, the little girl with the red scarf." His breathing changed, becoming shallow, rapid. "You had no right. I wanted to understand." "Understand what?" he demanded, stepping closer, looming over her. "Why someone who captured humanity with such compassion now hides from it." Something broke in Gabriel's expression. Pain, raw and unfiltered. "That little girl died," he whispered. "Days after I took that photograph. She died while I was winning awards for her suffering." Nora reached for him without thinking, her palm against his cheek. "And you've been punishing yourself ever since." Gabriel's hand covered hers, his eyes closing. "You see too much. Someone should." The air between them changed, charged with something electric, inevitable. His fingers threaded through her hair as he studied her face. "I've been photographing more than your mural," he confessed. "I've been capturing you, every genuine smile, every moment of doubt, every time you forget to hide." "Why?" she breathed. "Because you're the most honest person I've ever met." Gabriel's voice roughened. "In a world of facades and performances you create without armor, your vulnerability isn't weakness, Nora. It's your greatest strength." The confession hung between them. Nora felt exposed, seen in ways both terrifying and exhilarating. Gabriel stepped back suddenly, as if catching himself. "I should go." Stay, the word escaped before she could reconsider. His eyes darkened with conflict. "You don't know what you're asking." "I'm asking you not to disappear," Nora whispered. "Not tonight." The storm howled around the studio as they stood suspended between retreat and surrender, two broken people recognizing in each other the possibility of becoming whole. Morning light filtered through the studio windows, finding Nora and Gabriel asleep on the paint-splattered couch. They hadn't crossed physical boundaries beyond holding each other through the storm. Yet something more intimate had transpired. The sharing of scars, both visible and hidden. Nora stirred first, watching Gabriel's face in repose. The perpetual tension had smoothed from his features, making him appear younger, vulnerable. She resisted the urge to trace the scar that ran along his jawline. His eyes opened, catching her gaze. "How long have you been watching me?" he asked, voice rough with sleep. "Not long enough," she answered honestly. Gabriel sat up, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I should show you something," he said. After a moment, "If you still want to see?" He retrieved his laptop from his bag fingers, hesitating over the keyboard before opening a folder labeled simply "Truth," a screen filled with images that stole Nora's breath. "These are from the past month," Gabriel explained as she scrolled through photographs of herself. These weren't ordinary portraits. These were moments of pure, unguarded existence. Nora laughing with paint splattered across her cheek. Nora lost in concentration, her curves bathed in morning light. Nora staring out to sea, arms wrapped around herself, with such longing it made her heart ache to see it. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why me?" Gabriel's eyes remained fixed on the screen. "After Sudan, I stopped seeing beauty. I couldn't," his voice faltered. Then I saw you that first day in the studio, not trying to be beautiful, just being, and something broke open. He reached toward the screen, stopping short of touching her image. You reminded me what I'd forgotten. That vulnerability isn't weakness. It's courage. Nora felt tears threatening. My whole life I've been too much, too emotional, too sensitive, too invested. No, Gabriel said with sudden fierceness. You've been exactly enough. The world has been too small. Later that day, Dominic arrived at the studio, bringing lunch and curiosity. His eyebrows raised, seeing Gabriel and Nora working side by side in comfortable silence. The mysterious photographer emerges. Dominic teased, setting down paper. Bags fragrant with fried fish. The whole town's been wondering about you. Gabriel tensed, but nodded politely. Not much to wonder about, except why a world-renowned photojournalist is hiding in our little coastal haven. Nora shot Dominic a warning. Look, but Gabriel surprised her by answering, I came here to die, he said simply, figuratively. At least that was the plan. Dominic blinked. And now Gabriel's eyes found Nora's. Now I'm not so sure. After Dominic left, they spread Gabriel's photographs across the floor, alongside Nora's sketches, finding unexpected connections between their work. A dialogue of images and paint telling complementary stories. We could do something with this, Nora suggested hesitantly. A joint exhibition, your photographs. My paintings, Gabriel stiffened. I don't exhibit anymore. Why not? Because I don't trust what people see when they look at suffering through glass with wine in hand. Nora moved closer, kneeling beside him. Then show beauty instead. Show healing show. This, she gestured to the photographs of herself. Show the journey from brokenness. His hand found her fingers intertwining. I'm not healed, Nora. Neither am I, she admitted. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe we're just works in progress canvases, still being painted. That night Gabriel followed Nora to her cottage overlooking the sea. They cooked together, moving around her small kitchen with newfound ease, as if their bodies were learning a dance. Their minds already knew later as moonlight. Spilled across her bed, Gabriel traced constellations across Nora's skin with reverent fingers, his touch both gentle and desperate. Are you sure? He whispered against her neck. Nora answered by pulling him closer, her body welcoming her softness, meeting his hardened edges, their broken pieces fitting together in ways neither had imagined possible. His photographer's hands memorized every curve, every freckle, every sigh. His lips followed, mapping her body like undiscovered territory. Beautiful. He murmured against her skin, making her believe it for the first time. In the quiet aftermath, Gabriel confessed against her hair. I've been afraid to feel anything since. Sudan, afraid that if I let myself care again, I'd break completely. Nora pressed her palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. Sometimes we need to break to be rebuilt. The exhibition opening arrived, transformed from Nora's simple mural unveiling to a joint showcase. Fractured light featured Gabriel's photographs interspersed with Nora's paintings. The narrative they created together moved from isolation through connection to possibility. Jasmine had secured the old lighthouse gallery, the circular space allowing their work to flow in a natural progression. The centerpiece remained, Nora's marine conservation mural, but now contextualized within their shared artistic journey. Are you ready? Nora asked, adjusting Gabriel's collar, his usual camera absent tonight. His eyes held uncertainty, but his smile was genuine. No, but I'm here anyway. He took her hand. Because of you. The gallery filled quickly, locals mingling with critics who traveled from Seattle and Portland, drawn by rumors of Gabriel Thornfield's return to the public eye. Nora felt scrutiny following her curvy figure, draped in flowing blue silk, but for once didn't shrink from it. Gabriel's gaze a constant reminder that she was enough, exactly as she was. You've been holding out on us, Jasmine whispered to Nora, nodding toward Gabriel, who was reluctantly answering a critic's questions. the town's mysterious photographer and our new muralist, a creative and romantic collaboration. Nora blushed. It's complicated. The best things are. Jasmine smiled midway. Through the evening, Gabriel disappeared. Nora searched until Dominic directed her toward the gallery's private back room. He asked not to be disturbed, but I think you're the exception. She found Gabriel staring at a wall she hadn't seen during preparations. A series of photographs, unlike the others. These weren't of Nora or Everwick, but from his past life images. Of war-torn landscapes, juxtaposed with moments of unexpected grace. A child laughing amid ruins, a flower growing through concrete, an old woman's weathered hands offering water. I wasn't sure I could show these, Gabriel said, sensing her presence. But they needed to be here. The journey wouldn't be honest without them. They're powerful, Nora said, moving beside him. They're my ghosts. He turned to her. I've been running from them for so long. I forgot they were also my teachers. The final photograph showed the little girl from Sudan, the one whose death had broken him. But instead of suffering, this image captured her smiling, gap-toothed, and radiant. I took this 3 minutes before the other one, Gabriel explained. The one everyone knows, the one that won awards. His voice caught. This is who she was, not just a victim. A child with joy despite everything. Nora leaned into him. Thank you for showing me. I have one more thing to show you. Gabriel led her to a covered frame, set apart from the others. He removed the cloth, revealing a photograph Nora had never seen. She gasped, seeing herself through his lens. Standing before her nearly completed mural, arms outstretched, paintbrush in hand, surrounded by swirling blues and greens. Her expression one of pure creation, unfettered joy. Below it a single title, Queen of her world. This is how I see you, Gabriel said, voice low and intimate. Not too much, not too soft, not too anything, just perfectly, wonderfully you. Nora turned to him, tears blurring her vision. I spent so long trying to make myself smaller, believing I needed to change to be loved. Gabriel cupped her face. I don't want smaller. I want you exactly as you are. And I want you, she whispered. Past, present, and future, broken pieces and all, their kiss tasted of promised new beginnings and the salt of healing tears. Behind them, the photograph and mural stood in perfect conversation. Art and artist, witness and creator, two people who had found in each other not completion, but possibility. Later, as the gallery emptied, they stood on the lighthouse balcony, watching waves crash against the shore. Gabriel's arm around Nora, anchoring her against the wind. What happens now? She asked. After tonight, after the exhibition ends. Gabriel looked out toward the horizon, where sea met sky in perfect union. I received an offer today. The Marine Conservation Society wants documentation of whale migration patterns along the coast. You'd stay in Everwick. I'd stay with you, he corrected. If you'll have me, we could collaborate your murals, my photographs, telling stories that matter. Nora smiled, leaning into him. I think we already are. Below them, the town lights twinkled against growing darkness. The lighthouse beams swept across water, illuminating paths through the night, like art through shadow, like love through pain. Like two broken people finding in each other, not perfection, but the courage to begin again. I'm still learning how to stay, Gabriel admitted, how to build rather than document and leave. Nora took his hand, pressing it against her heart. Then let's learn together, one canvas, one photograph, one day at a time. Against the vast horizon they stood, silhouetted, two artists, two healers, each seeing in the other what the world had failed to recognize, not despite their brokenness, but because of it. The beauty of being exactly enough in a world finally big enough to hold them both.